Live. What's going on, everybody? I'm Justin Thomas. Welcome to the Justin Thomas Show. Today, we're going to be talking Westworld theories, expectations for Westworld Season 2. We are literally now at, 6 days away from the premiere that we've been waiting a year and a half. I could not be more excited, and I could also not be more excited to have on a longtime friend or acquaintance through the Amino group, and I think we're going to become friends.
Definitely.
But first time caller, because you'll be joining us via audio anyways. And his name is Hax Dogma. If you haven't heard of him, check out his links in the information below. And since he is a intelligent gentleman, I'm going to let him pitch himself right now. Hax, how you doing? Tell the people what you do.
I am doing great, Justin. Thank you so much for having me. Everyone that's viewing, appreciate your time so much. Overall, just happy to be here and ready to discuss some theories.
Awesome. So when you think of theories, especially Westworld theories, what do you think constitutes a good theory? And before you answer, I'm just going to go through a quick list here of when I was looking up, the popular theories for this season of how far they're stretching already, because they really want to have some theories, but there's really not quite too much to work off of yet. This is our official list. I think this is from Game Radar. This is the 10 best Westworld theories you'll get primed to get you primed and blow your mind before season 2. Man. Yeah, blow your mind. So the first one is Maeve has broken her programming and becoming truly sentient. That's just a true statement.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Theory confirmed. Dude, I'm doing great. Let's go.
Game Radar nailed this one. But yeah, evidently they're still speculating. If Maeve started her own awakening, other hosts can do the same. I don't know. That seems too tinfoily for me. Or is that the exact premise of what's happening?
Yeah, is that the show, or are we experiencing something else? Not too sure now.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Lost. I get confused. I don't know. The outside world will become much more important. And let us know in the chat which one of these are the best, people. The outside world will become much more important. Do you think that there's been any heavy-handed dialogue about how there's a bigger plan?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever discussed the outside world. So, yep, that is. Damn, how did I not think of these?
Well, they're smarter than us, okay, Hax? I mean, they're a lot smarter. These people are from Game Radar. They're on the radar here. Westworld really is at war, and the lines between the park and outside world will blur. Okay. I don't even, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that is true. Again, that's, and that sadly, I'm going to the second page to see if there's anything else. Blah, blah, blah. They go for the man in black will go white hat or at least gray, just going with basic storytelling methods, and our main antagonist will probably have a character arc, so they're going to say it's going to be a story. Maeve and Dolores will swap roles. I don't even want to read that one. Maeve's attempt to rescue her daughter will go badly. These aren't theories. These are just statements. And this is the best one I could find, people. There's worse than this. Elsie and Stubbs are alive and might have much greater roles in season 2. Well, yeah, because you couldn't get any less of a role than what they played in season 2. And yes, they're alive. AU back me. I love you. I didn't think he believed me, but it turned out to be a different take from what he said. But yes, it was really, but yeah, I mean, right after the episode where she disappeared, they released audio on the website of her. So, and she's been at all the press at Comic-Con. There was multiple articles saying that Shannon Woodward is back for season 2, and they have pictures of her on set. But could go any way. And I have a final one here. These are all just very. The park is almost definitely not on Mars. Is that I don't even know what that is.
I mean, so let's jump into that one, right? So,
good.
Well, actually, all the way back at the beginning. So, what constitutes a theory? Realistically, anything that you can arguably state, right? So, you can't just say that Maeve is the man in black and then walk away. It's not a theory. That's just a random thing. But if you can say Maeve is the man in black and then give something that you consciously think is is true and supports your argument, then yeah, I mean that's a theory. You can do anything you want as long as you have some evidence to back it up. In terms of defining theories, right? But then jumping to Mars, Westworld, why not? I mean, assuming that we're at a time in the progression of our current state in the world to what is it, maybe 50 years in the future or something like that.
Elon Musk says we'll be there tomorrow, but yeah, about 50.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I wouldn't doubt if at the end of 5 seasons that this entire thing is just everyone's in a simulation and that's the end of it. J.J. Abrams just starts maniacally laughing in the background and then the show ends or something.
Oh, you bastard. I was going to bring that one. I don't believe it, but that it's pretty much the probability, theory that it's just far more likely that we are in a simulation. So them essentially setting a simulation within a simulation within a simulation would kind of piss a lot of people off, but it's possible.
Which of course, all humanity is a simulation. I mean, everyone knows that, right?
There's some that argue the math is for it. That'll be a whole different stream and a whole different channel. But like I said, I mean, like a good theory to me has basically the reason there's not going to be too many theories yet is because we don't have any narrative yet. We haven't seen anything other than the trailers. So we know that we got James Delos in the picture and stuff, and we're going to see that develop, and we know that we're going to see the struggle within and but both internally and externally with the hosts and the humans. And I say it like that because I think that the biggest theories come from who will be a host and who won't be a host. So I'm going to start with, we talked about this a little bit before. One theory that, and this is not my theory, this is a general idea that's been going around. I've kind of tweaked it a little bit. I'm not big on speculation, so I don't really like doing this, but just for the fun of it, this is going to be like the loosest you're ever going to see me go. You know what I mean? So don't, again, unless this turns out to be correct, credit me for this.
Unless I'm right this entire time, I never said this.
Yeah, victory has many fathers. Defeat is an orphan. So this is the idea that Arnold, not Bernard, that Arnold is the only human. That Arnold created Ford, and Ford was always a host, and everybody that we see is essentially a host. Now, some people take this differently. Some people take it as only the people that work for Westworld are the hosts, which is more likely. But, we have seen some, I think that there's some validity to this because it goes along with like one of the major, themes of this series. And it's what constitutes free will, what really makes, consciousness, sentience legitimate, at least our, very, very biased eyes, because it's always got to be, it's got to be like us. And it's all about what deserves empathy, what deserves, sympathy and rights and stuff like that. And is it really sentience? Is it really free will if Ford had such a heavy hand in the, their journey to sentience? Is that true sentience? Because you can go about, and we won't get into the theological aspect of this because I can't lose viewers with my numbers. But I'll just say that if you're religious, you have that answer that's very convenient. And if I'm tired, I'll just act like I'm very religious because I'll be like, we're made by God. That's the answer. That's what makes us human and other people not. But if you don't believe that, it's like, well, literally we say we're wired. You know what I mean? Like this is the way we're wired. So like, because and we look at ourselves as organic. And I think they're going to touch on this a lot in season 2 because I know from the press releases, they are going to touch on how the host can actually die and what they're made of in the process of it. I think we saw a hint of that with the heart-shaped box trailer. So it's all about, I think this theory is fun because it lays out the situation that the true way for them to find their own way is for Arnold to sacrifice himself because he can't be involved in the process. Now, you could take this as, well, then isn't that what Ford did? Well, the only difference would be Ford, was pulling the strings for much, much longer. I mean, they were on Ford's leash. His master plan, I mean, he literally programmed them to get to this, to the middle of the maze. So we have to think, if we just want to hypothetically go by this theory, Arnold makes Ford as a host, and there's some substance to it because look what else Arnold made, a backstory for Ford with his family, because he has his family in the park.
They're very close.
And what was the first thing that Ford did once Arnold was gone? And let's go a little biblical. He recreated his God. He resurrected
Lazarus.
Yeah, he did.
So I think jumping into it, right? You know, a really good way to think about it. I think that's the entire point of the show, is that exactly there is no defined consciousness. There is no, you know, are you a host? Are you a human? You know, in the very first episode, you're taught that, hey, maybe Teddy is a host and you sympathize with him as a good guy, you know, and then he's murdered by an actual human who then goes and rapes or murders another host. And so the entire time you're thinking, okay, I'm definitely on the side of the hosts because, I mean, you know, that's wrong. But then being on the side of the host means that all of a sudden, you know, you're rooting against your own species. But then, you know, towards the end, right, they break that exact thing down. And if I can quote this here, you know, Bernard, during his awakening, when Ford is walking him through everything, he says, so what's the difference between my pain and yours, between you and me? And this is he goes on to say, this is the very question that consumed Arnold. It filled him with guilt and eventually drove him mad. You know, the answer was always obvious. There is no threshold that makes us greater than the sum of our parts, no inflection point that we become fully alive. You cannot define consciousness because consciousness does not exist. So I think that's the show creators directly talking to us. I think they're using him as a conduit, and that is just, you know, the moment of clarity in which it's all about who you individually sympathize with. It's not hosts versus humans. It's not, you know, are you a real boy? Are you just Pinocchio? It's, you have feelings. You exist in a world. You know, you make the best of it, and then you die or live forever as a host.
Exactly. It's like, it doesn't legitimize their pain because we see. I made this metaphor before. We saw the sausage factory. You know, we see that they're being controlled by this. So, but it's still pain. We have, again, this like this huge like disservice and also easy out of not knowing our origins. And I know, again, not to offend anybody, but, you know, of this whole higher being created us. So we're like, you know, just for some reason special. But the point is, if you look at it, just we somehow were created by something. So that everybody has to start somewhere. Once you see the process, for some reason, for people, it desensitizes them to a point, but it's still pain and it's still feeling. I think that it would add a lot more validity to the argument that I believe they're trying to convey here. And that is that, you know, we need to stop looking at, like you said, and I'm so glad to hear somebody say it, because sentience, everybody's like, especially in the first season, you're part of the, you know, community. You saw people thinking that it was a physical maze they had to get to it. I'm like, well, you know what? I can't hate because maybe they're just real tired and they're just watching the show for the entertainment aspect. But Jesus, man, these people, I mean, did they even have one, you know, you don't even have to have a philosophy class, like a psychology class in high school, I believe, is always required to a point to understand that, you know, what we're dealing with here is a path to something that we have predetermined. We've set the rules. We're like, what are we like? And that's what constitutes somebody else as being worth a shit. There's a lot of things. If it looks like us, we're sympathetic to it. Let's look at the pandas that we're keeping alive for so many years. They're cute. If a panda wasn't looking like it does, we probably wouldn't be, you know, trying to force them to, you know, reproduce in the zoo. If it was like sloths or like you know, I don't know, like a possum. We're not like gotta save the possums, but no, we want we want something that's cute, and something, if it's not us, we want it to be cute. It can't be disgusting. So I think that we're going to explore that too more, because we've seen the drone host. So we're going to see like just like bare like skin and whatever it's made out of, synthetic material in exoskeleton, not skin and bones. You know, and does that constitute, you know, your empathy, your sympathy, and stuff like that. I just think that it would make the case for the rest of the world, whatever state of the world, and that we'll get into next, whatever the state of the world is, to look at these beings a little bit different if it wasn't, and them to look a little bit different, because it's almost how Bernard sees it. He was programmed to be a human, and now he's learning he's not. So he has to ride the line, and you see from the trailers, we do see a more measured approach that Bernard takes. My point is that we would get a better outcome if the human was as much as he could be hands off of the situation, is my point. If Ford is a host, it makes their journey a little bit more, and again, it's still coming back to who am I to say that they are legitimate or deserving of this, but it still does add a little bit more validity to their existence, and I think it would be an interesting twist. But the only problem I do have with it is that they've essentially just gotten to that already by Ford making a sacrifice, but there is evidence to support it, especially with resurrecting his god. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I like they do mention resurrection, living forever, being re-embodied as a host. There's this stuff with the DNA, getting in an accident, your body being recreated. I think it's all not. I don't think it's garbage. I don't think it's warranted, right? I think that Ford's character was so powerful that I came out with a pre-finale video before season 1 finale, and I essentially said that he 100% must die, because otherwise every circumstance that would occur in the park, he would always have the answer. There would never be a relatable drama. You could never risk anything, because essentially it was, okay, well, Ford has master control of everything. If anything goes wrong, he just snaps his fingers and everything works again. So Ford needed to die. His character was too strong in a sense. And then recreating him as a host, or bringing him back, I heard a theory that maybe he's coming back as a younger Ford, and we're going to see like a younger William talking to the young Ford at some point. But overall,
we're going to see that, but it's not him. Anthony Hopkins isn't coming back. We're just going to see in the 30-year back timeline events. So he will be played by a different actor, and it sounds like that won't be this season, because they said that was a direct from Nolan and Lisa Joy Nolan. They did say that we will see young Ford, but it won't be CGI, and it will, and when it happens, it will be played by a different actor. So all that terminology, first off, confirms he's dead, because they said he's not coming back. I've had so many arguments about this. Yes, I know we like it. And
everyone loves him. Yeah.
But like what Hax is saying, it takes away from everything. He has to go. It's like how Renly Baratheon had to go. His army would, especially aligned with Robb Stark, would have rolled that shit. You got to kill him off. But it's even worse, because then his sacrifice would be meaningless if it was a host Ford or all that. But go on. Yeah, but I'm just saying I agree.
Well, I mean, overall, that's it. I don't think, I don't think he's coming back. And yeah, truthfully, that's about it. Moving on to one that I wanted to talk about. It's not really a theory, but something I haven't really, expressed, is in the early days of theory crafting for Westworld, a lot of talk was about the Man in Black's end game, right? Was he, trying to do this or that, or was he simply just a gamer? And at the time, everyone was like, well, it's definitely not that he's just a shallow dude and wants a better game because he's been gaming for so long. And that turned out to be exactly what it is. He's done everything in the park. He has experienced the utmost of what the park has to offer, and now he's just looking for blood and gore and a true test, for his gaming ability.
Well, see, I disagree with that, though. I think that's become part of it, and that's all. But what I think he was truly, in the most grotesque and most illogical and unsympathetic way, trying to re-experience the best time of his life, which was what we saw in the flashback.
First time.
Yeah, so it's like a journey. It was very. It was misguided, and I think we will see a character arc. But yes, there's a certain amount of because he talks about how much he loves stories and how immersed he is, and immersion is obviously a lot to do with the series. So yeah, I mean, I agree with like what you're saying to the point of, I think that yes, he is a gamer, but that's definitely not just it. I think that it might turn. I think that's going to be the interesting thing about the MIB's storyline this season is, yes, where does he go? Does he turn into what you just said, Hex? Does he turn into that now? Because I mean, Dolores didn't really, fall back into his arms. She broke his fucking arm. So you know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not just saying, oh, that's bullshit, because it's completely correct to a point, because where else does he have to go now? But I don't think that was his motivation. His motivation was try to capture it back. But again, it wasn't for him. And he was just looking at that situation, which Dolores had relived that situation many, many times. And he was just one part. Go ahead.
So I totally agree. So he experiences the park for the first time with Logan. He witnesses something in Dolores. It changes him. I think in season 2 we're going to see some of the issues with maybe bringing Dolores out of the park, and we do have a brief clip from that trailer in which it seems like they're in the same room that Bernard or Arnold interrogated Dolores in, right? So there's some kind of duality there. But overall, I think that's really all it is. I mean, like, it comes down to, he experienced something, he fell in love with the park, he, basically sacrificed his entire outside world, assumingly, so that the park could be his life. And he's done everything. He's on to what he thinks is like, a grandiose Easter egg that he can experience true danger. And then that's the end of it. So what this transitions to, right, is that Ford has now given him the gift of he's in true danger, right? So if you rewatch the very end scene when he's shot in the arm, the people are encroaching at a pretty fast pace. I don't know how he gets out of that. So it's like, surely he can't die, but at the same time, how does he kill what is probably 30 people coming that can now kill him? So I hope whatever they do a really good job. Not Jaime Lannister falling into a river with a full set of plate armor and then miraculously getting away from.
He was a good swimmer. He was in the Olympics.
Yeah.
He was in the Westerosi Olympics.
So I hope they don't do that. But yes, no, I think it's something.
Yeah, and I think that what it really means is, because, like, think about it. If you experience it, and Carrie has a good question I'm going to get to after this. I just want to add a little bit on to what Hax said. If you experience like the most enjoyable moment of your life, and let's just say it was in virtual reality, let's put it in modern day terms, you would want to just break down all the walls, all the constructs that make it not real, right? Because that's what he wants, because like you said, his outside world fell apart. He can't even find happiness from saving others' lives. We see that when that guy says, thank you so much for saving my sister's life. Now, I've saved a lot of people's sister's life because I'm a really good guy and I'm kind of a superhero. And when they come up to me and they gush, and it's annoying because it happens a lot, because I've saved so many lives, I'm like, it's cool, yeah, just no pictures. I'll do one quick autograph. But he was like, I'll cut your fucking throat.
Yeah.
What I mean?
He's like, you're ruining my immersion.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I saved your sister's life. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I think that now what it is that he just wants that world to be the real world. In at least the only like rational way of thinking he has is that he's accepting that means the good and the bad. Yeah. That it's not just getting to have that hot robot sex. It's getting shot in the goddamn arm.
Do you think that the Man in Black understood what Arnold wanted, right? So he, from what we know, what he thought was the maze and what he thought that Arnold was pursuing is, that real danger. Do you think that he knew, Arnold's goal, or what Arnold saw was that these hosts were alive and could theoretically become, just the same as you and I? Or do you think it's, again, just goes back to the game? And if Man in Black is acknowledging the fact that he's thinking these are sentient beings or self-aware beings, and then he still wishes to hunt and murder them, I feel like maybe that's not the character they were trying to develop. That seems, more like a psychopath as opposed to someone else who was just enjoying the park, which had no risk.
Yeah, well, it's him. It's that idea again of there's no such thing as a painless birth. so that's kind of how they justify it.
Yeah.
I again, and I agree with you because I hate within the community people that think that now they have to all like because and now this is I guess if we want to talk theories, a theory that Dolores is going to put now she's definitely going to have infighting because there's going to be conflict, but there's three different approaches for sure. We're going to get Bernard's approach, Maeve's approach, and Dolores all because of their experiences, in which I talked about in the last stream. But the idea is that pain cannot be ignored. Happiness, joy can be ignored. So that's I think what we're seeing is a conflicted character, complex character. Like I spoke to you about this before the show. I think that when it comes to theories about like the overarching, like the big plan for Delos and all that, it's definitely going to be interesting. Hey Andrew, thank you for stopping in. That's my bro. We got to talk Walking Dead. Oh man, I shouldn't say this. I gave it up officially and I kept to my word, but I fucking watched last night or whatever. Yeah, I wasn't happy either. Pretty stupid. I hope they go and get whatever. I'm no spoiler alert, but yeah, the whole queue, whatever. Poorly handled. I made the right decision by giving it up, and then I
series needs to end. That's. I stopped watching a couple years ago.
Everybody says that to me, and I'm like, now I feel like a piece of shit because I only stopped like 3 weeks ago. But yeah, I should have. You're right. But anyways, I had a relapse last night, so I did it. But anyways, Andrew's our good buddy from Australia. That is a great source on what's still good, the comics. But anyways, jumping back into it, I think that we were talking about the Man in Black, and we were talking about like how he was approaching what he was doing. So his idea was he was pushing them to the limit and all that, but what it means for the bigger picture, actually, because we were past that. That's what we were talking about. Sorry, it's live, people. Okay, what? A lot of people only write scripts and it takes them weeks and they make one video, and it's usually people's ideas from Reddit. So hey, yeah, you know what I mean. Anyways, so yeah, the bigger picture I don't think is going to be like, yes, it's going to be intriguing, it's going to be interesting, but we're writing complex characters. Like the Man in Black's actions are conflicted. He wants to love the host, but if the only way to love is to hurt them, how poetic. But but you know what I mean, like, where do you stand? Because when it all comes down to it, we're all pretty selfish. No matter if you want to, you want what you want. Some people go further than others. He obviously is going further than others, and so I think that, like, I brought up the example of like writing for a situation and writing characters. Bad shows write for situations. Good shows write good complex characters that are going to have intriguing, and you're going to get great entertainment out of, obviously it can't just be them on a sofa watching TV eating popcorn, but there has to be something happening. But it's more about how do these great characters act within the world you've created, not just creating a great world for non-fleshed out characters. So I think that it's almost for sure, and I want Hax's opinion on this after. I think it's almost just for sure. I mean, I know obviously y'all know Robert, who's always on with us. Yeah, it's collecting intelligence, it's getting that DNA. It's pretty obvious that the plan is to definitely either blackmail, clone, or take that information, use it against people, or recreate them. There's no way it's not. There's so much language in the official, like, Delos, terms and conditions. They even own your stories. Like, if you tell a good story at the Mesa bar, that's where Lee Sizemore was getting freaking twisted at. Like, if Lee Sizemore's bullshitting with me and I tell one of my fantastic stories, he can write that in the narrative because he owns it. So they own everything. And I don't want to get gross, but those brothel workers are full of information and men talk when they're happy. So do you think that do you think we will be that shocked by the twist? And then Carrie, I'm going to get to Ghost Nation. We'll both address Ghost Nation. We have very little information about it, but I do have a theory, and I just thought of it in the last 2 hours about Ghost Nation because you brought up how they don't respond to the commands and all that. So I want Hax's comments on what I said and his point of view on it, and then we'll jump into some Ghost Nation, which I will warn you, we have it's pretty much a ghost in the storyline, so we don't have much to go off of, and this will be the widest speculation you will see unless I just start getting real sloppy. But if I get real sloppy, I'll probably get 1 million subs, so it seems to be the way to go. I'll stop rambling. Hex, any thoughts on that, as far as will this turn of what the bigger plan be all that different from what's already been foreshadowed or not?
So my understanding, and as they bought the company, or as they became majority shareholder, right? I imagine that in the early days, Ford agreed to this under the assertion that they they were not entitled to their intellectual property. They could not have the way that the hosts work, the mind of the host, if you will. Um, so fast forward all these years, Delos is still unable to obtain this property, and they've thought of things like creating drones, like we see in the trailer, or creating hosts for the outside world, selling soldiers to any nation they wish to support, but they're unable to because the company that they bought is essentially still holding on to it because Ford is alive. So I think that's the plan. Is plain and simple capitalism. They have a thing that will revolutionize, and it doesn't exist anywhere but this park. But if they could apply it to anything else, it would be it'd be spectacular.
So you think you're going with the capitalistic view that it is, because I do have to disagree with you on that one. Just be I think they pretty much straight out says that, anybody correct me, and this is part of having good content creators on, because Hax is excellent at what he does, and we, before we talked about this, we actually, he changed my mind about a certain aspect about what was it we were talking about. I said I think everybody's jumping to the conclusion that Logan is Logan Delos, but I don't have any like dialogue that like ever really for sure, even though it's pretty, it's probably really likely. And then you had dialogue off the top of your head about, I forget the quote, but you paraphrase, in that sank it in. I'm like, oh, there it is. Now, yes, is it so possible that they're not? But it's so highly likely that it's
most likely, yeah. They're related. So
I just think there has to be more, because there's dialogue about that too, that they don't give a shit about the parks.
Exactly, that's true. And the dialogue and the ARG that talks about the DNA, that talks about the storylines, I 100% support. The theory that maybe it is just about the guest data. Only the people that can afford $40,000 a day are coming in. You're only witnessing the 1% of the world, and then you're also able to web scrape everything off of their DNA and their memories, their stories, what their fetishes are, and that's not worth anything. No way. That's worth so much. Everything from blackmail to host cloning world leaders is hinted at in that thesis. So I definitely think that the guest data is just as important, but for the scope of the show, I truly think that just the power of the host mind and an army of hosts, or a recreating machine, I just think that's where it's at. And I think that if we do go the DNA route, and we do go the host creation of world leaders, I think it's kind of too much of a retrospect. We're like kind of touching on the previous movies, but I'm definitely not ruling it out.
Yeah, and which I hate shitting on the, or not shitting. I hate not shitting on them. The Westworld's all right. Future World was almost as hot of garbage as The Walking Dead. But yeah, I mean, valid point. As far as Ghost Nation, Carrie McDonald, thank you for your support, has been asking about this. Now, like, again, I don't like to widely speculate, but here I'm going to go off of what I've seen and what's been inferred, implied, whatever. I'll get I'll get a dictionary out in a minute. But anyways, it's live. I think that here's some interesting thing. Thank you for the super chat as well. But I think that, okay, there's a few things you could take from this. They didn't listen to voice commands. So let me play devil's advocate. Okay, because Stubbs said, hey, I forget what it was, but halt to all motor functions.
Freeze all motor functions, yeah.
Yeah, see, halt is a better word. Stubbs, yes, dummy. No wonder you're the worst Hemsworth.
That's true.
Anyway, so they don't. But again, let's say, because what I'm going for, and this is, again, don't stick me to this. Somebody's going to watch this minute of the video and say I said this for a fact, because it's probably not what it is. Does anybody? I'm sure that you are, Hax, familiar with this. What shadow security is? Shadow security, obviously, it's just that even sometimes security doesn't know about it. It would be within the park, and Ghost Nation could be made up of real. Yes, Milt, you're saying, you son of a bitch. I'm in the middle of saying it, Milt. Don't act like it's your idea. That they're real, because we've never seen them in the actual center, but that's mostly filled with nude Maeve walking around with Felix and Sylvester. But anyways, yeah, we've never seen them within the facility. They didn't listen to motor functions, and they also because yes, spoiler alert, people that somehow found themselves in this video without thinking they were going to learn anything about Westworld don't know what you came here for. That's a crazy series of just stupid events that led you here. But yeah, Elsie and Stubbs are alive, so we're not sure that Elsie was taken by them, but we are sure that Stubbs was taken by them. So I'm just saying, like, okay, there's evidence to support that they could be not only just sympathetic hosts, but they could possibly be shadow security of sorts, for lack of a better relation. You get what I'm saying? Because they're kind of mysterious and all that, and they do relate them to the gods and all that, but that kind of just goes with like the storyline, the immersion that Native Americans were known for being very in touch with the earth and things like that. So I mean, okay, let's go tinfoil Justin, that shadow security. Realistic Justin, with the Clementine scene for the demonstration, so she would get her lobotomy. They put out the new rule, because again, when you're making when you're writing a story, anything that you create, any type of book, whatever, series, film, you set your own rules. You just have to abide by them. So they set a rule there. We know now that there is a chance that technically everybody could be a host, and that not everybody that doesn't listen to voice commands is automatically recognized as a host is or is not a host. So they set the precedent for it. We really aren't going to know more until the season, which I've talked about before with the casting news. We're going to know more because of the actor that they cast for him. Not only is he a pretty prevalent actor in Hollywood, but he was injured. He fell at his home and hit his head real bad, and they stopped production for like 2 weeks because of this. So if he was just a minor role, you know what I mean, there's no way. Like, okay, if a Ghost Nation guy hurt himself last season, they wouldn't have halted. I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't have cared, but these are all just you'd call them featured extras. Yes, they'd be like, get another guy in here. They could have even probably spray tan somebody and put them in there. I'll probably get shit for that comment, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So, what do you have any Ghost Nation theories? And I hope that answered any. It's not really an answer, Carrie. Again, we're both trying to be as intelligent about this as possible and not just feed you bullshit. These are just opinions, and these are things that could happen that have been foreshadowed.
So, because I am omniscient and know all the answers,
he's going another route.
No, so I really think that the Ghost Nation is just, the word is escaping me, but they're just another party, right? The reason that they didn't listen to the commands to freeze is, can be explained by, like, if Stubbs had said that in the presence of Bernard, Bernard wouldn't have stopped moving all of a sudden, right? That would have blew the entire immersion of it. So Ford definitely has some kind of permissions list that says, hey, if X person says this to X person or to Y person, then acknowledge it, right? So Ghost Nation sort of could have simply been deployed with the simple, instruction of, hey, don't stop motor functions. Don't exactly kill people, right? Because we're not at that part yet. But essentially, you are the force for, maybe Dolores to protect herself as, she kills all these Delos people, security reigns in, all of a sudden Ghost Nation is there to protect her, and they're not going to listen to people's commands to freeze motor functions. They're not going to listen to anyone else. Maybe Dolores is right now the only one in control of them even. But truthfully, I think that's all it is that Ford just simply has that permission set. Hey, don't listen to humans when they say stop all motor functions.
Yeah, in which they should be saying halt. But this is what I love about this show, people, and this is what I get into, because like I constantly am changing my mind about things, because what Hax just said just brought up just furthered my belief that I and this is maybe the one case you'll see of me of just wanting something to be true, because I do think the narrative would be better because of this, but it would also be cool. But let's think about what Hax is just talking about, which is all, been established, that these hosts have been, programmed to do this or that. So the more heavy-handed puppet mastering, chess master, that Ford is doing, these actions that he's doing, the more involvement that he's doing is really limiting their free will. If it's not limiting it, it's making it non-existent. And it's taking away from the validity of their journey, because it's been such a, like, and I'm not saying one way or another, but this is what this show's supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about, like, I hope he finds that maze and I hope he makes the left turn instead of the right, or, and of course it has its fun action moments. Hax, I put a bunch of your videos in the dibbly do, which I say when I get confused. That's a John Green thing. The information. And
awesome.
You did he did essentially like a concise video of what I'm always trying to convey. It was like, does should you watch Westworld? You brought up, like, you didn't say entertainment for entertainment's sake, but that's what you're conveying. Does it have like the action that would be fun for just a casual watcher? And does it have the deep philosophical views and, conversation that could be spawned from it? And you brought it does, and that's what you're conveying in that it's definitely worth a watch for many different reasons. And that was a great video for people that are on the edge, oh, should I watch this? Because I wasn't a sci-fi guy. Like, I'm still not. And I wasn't interested in artificial intelligence. Now I'm going to be having, he's in our, if you're in our Amino, which you guys should join, you'll see a gentleman that has a YouTube channel that works in the business. He creates artificial intelligence. He's always posting his projects. And I'm now listening to Jordan Peterson. I'm listening to all these people, not everything Jordan Peterson says, don't get triggered, people. But I'm listening to all these different, like, TED Talks and stuff about, like, AI, about the what they call digital ascension, stuff like that. And looking at it, it's making me a more intelligent person. It's bringing me into a whole new world. It's even made me far more involved with something I was already involved, philosophy, and even looking at theology, your bioethics, all these questions that Hax was talking about and stuff. It's like, well, what constitutes this? What constitutes that?
The most underrated thing that I really hope they explore in season 2 is the robotic paradox, right? So the robotic paradox essentially is when you as a human can no longer decide if the person standing next to you is a human or a host or a robot, and that is such a fascinating thing to me. It blows my mind thinking about it. So the reason for that, right, is that in the trailer you see the scene in which James Delos is holding what is assumed to be a piece of glass up to his throat with the bloody face, right? You see William put a gun against his head. You see, Felix question his sentience when he's talking to Maeve, or his if he's a human or not when he's talking to Maeve. The idea that you can logically consider yourself human when everyone around you that looks, smells, talks, everything like you, that you are better than them and you are a human as opposed to they're just machine host, is mind-blowing, right? And it leads to those suicidal tendencies. It leads to, like, how do I just prove that I'm not a host, right? Do I have to cut my arm open? Well, maybe I'm just programmed to think that when I cut my arm open it bleeds. Okay, maybe I just remove my entire. Maybe I just kill myself. What happens if I stop breathing? Will I be brought back online? Because at the end of the day, that's realistically the only way to definitively tell. And it's so mind-blowing to think about. And I really hope they stress this in the next season.
I think they are, because they're definitely going to be looking at the biology of it. But again, that brings up another argument, that it's like, well, why do they have to be relatable to, like, why do they have to have the blood, the skin? Like, the only reason hosts have blood, from what we learned so far, is like, it's just like they shut down. Yeah, well, that was weird to me too. And that's something I'd really like to, if you have anything to say about it after I'm done, please say that, because I just am not informed enough about, like, the tech aspect of this, which is something that drives me to research, and also drives me to take forever to make a video, and then my video turns into a million different topics because I'm diving into it. But yeah, I'm not like, I know you're probably more tech savvy than I am, but from my understanding, from what what they've established in the show, is that yeah, for some reason it's more cost effective, which is weird to me. I think because like my view on that is it's just more effective for the story because again, it's not the uncanny valley, you know, it's
Yeah,
them looking just like us. And then when we see that they have skin like us or blah blah blah, which if you look at Dolores, man, that scene in the last episode, you see how thick that skin is. So she had thick skin in more than one ways and another. I should have had that screenshot already because then my
that's
joke would
funny.
have landed. But thank you for lying.
Took me a second, but I get it.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. It's my stream. Everybody adheres to my bad humor on my stream, and then go on your own channel and just be like, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Trash talk. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the way. It's a classy thing to do.
The so with the I had a person comment on my video, and I have not looked it up. If you're listening, I'm so sorry. But they said that what I need to look into for this exact thing is something called like carbon fluorite or fluoreti or something like that. But essentially, the way he described it is that it is what makes up the hosts, and essentially is the future, or what us in the current world would equate to in 50 years of being able to realistically deploy this park. But I don't know. I think right now what it is just simply the sci-fi material that makes human construction possible.
Yeah, it's like what like Milt who's in the chat. Yeah, he's our on staff geophysicist, but he's also pretty smart with other stuff too. He's not just good at looking for oil, but he a little Texas joke. We were talking about because I did the video about the how the guns work. I just slowed it down. You can tell like the 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 amount of propellant is definitely changed because the projection is not as fast when Teddy shoots the man in black. I wasn't the first person to do this. I won't be the last, blah, blah, blah. But Milt, we were talking about, because I'm like, well, there has to be a hit scan that goes within a split second if we're going to like get technical about it. And again, I can only reach so far with this, with my knowledge. But, so he was saying, he was bringing up valid points about how it's easy, like what falls within the, like body temperature range. I go, but we really have to find out like what they're made of for sure, and then see how that would heat in the temperature of where they're at, because what would distinguish them in that hit scan? Like what if they're made of like synthetic, almost organic material, what's the chances of them reaching the same body heat? Or what's the chance of like, like somebody with polio or AIDS with like a low grade fever coming in and getting fucking shot, or vice versa? Maybe in poor taste, but and there's also like what constitutes, like a human comes down to the, philosophy. I think is it Diogenes? I think it's Diogenes. A great video comes out about Plato said that, like, I believe, man, I'm gonna get torn apart. So probably gonna get this wrong. This guy's name, I can't probably pronounce it. It's been so long since I've watched it, but Diogenes. He was around at the same time that Alexander the Great was around. He was like this just total like filthy guy that was just like, hey, you gotta love me for who I am. And like he defecated in public. He gave no shits. He ate out of a dumpster, whatever the equivalent of a dumpster was in Alexander's time. Alexander loved him so much that Alexander, the story is Alexander went and met him, and he told Alexander that Alexander was standing at his son and told him to move. and Alexander didn't even kill him. But I guess I think it was it Aristotle? It would have to be Aristotle. Said that I think he defined humans as anything as that is a featherless bird that can't fly. It might sound stupid, but I believe that was the definition. So he shaved a chicken and then went and smashed it in front of Aristotle and said, "How do you?" And he said, "How do you like your human?" Okay, like just go look up the real story behind that. It's similar. And I'm paraphrasing here off my mind, and I'm not a philosophy major, but it's very interesting. All I'm trying to prove is that it's all subjective. It's subjective. You know what I mean? It's like we're humans. Well, what if like another just race, now I wouldn't say race, species came around and exhibits everything that we exhibit, and then it comes down to do they need to exhibit what we exhibit? Elephants can recognize each other after so many years. Like what constitutes this freaking like this holy divine right to be, you know, the one only sentient beings, a word we made up. So it just brings up, you know, I mean, I don't suggest taking like, you know, something and smashing it on the ground saying how do you like your human, but it's the questions that Westworld brings up. As
Yeah.
far as the whole overarching plot with the rest of the worlds, because we know I think it's going to be 3 more worlds other than the Shogun world, which I want to get into a little bit because people are asking what does it mean and all that. And I'll say first off, what Shogun World tells me is that this series is a series about the power of storytelling. Screen Prism does an excellent job of talking about this and what it tells us about Westworld, what the Western as a genre was conveying. And there's different types, you know, of westerns and stuff like that, but the samurai genre was just it was actually before the westerns. The westerns were a direct descendant of it. It's the eastern you know, cowboy, so it's very similar. So I was talking to you a little bit about this, Hax, about how much do the actual like other than the capitalistic point of view, like of is it entertaining, which still can play into it because we have to think of what is a draw for people. So if the cowboy life and the samurai life is still a draw for these people, you know, you can kind of take a little bit out of like what the state of the outside world is from that, but not much. But to go tinfoily with it before I hand over to you, the only thing I can think that Shogun World would foreshadow is that if they're using the park is not just a form of money, but a way to like create like a weapon or a tool with the host, objectify them as they have, you know, because they didn't plan on making them sentient, even though they let Ford make them remember stuff. If anybody wasn't a host around him, they should have said no. Have you ever seen a movie? It doesn't end well. But, you know, like, what does it say? And all I'd say is feudalistic Japan. You know, we saw this even up until World War II, these ideals of the Bushido Code and all that. It would definitely create a group of you know, people that were very, very determined to die for their cause, just blind, you know, freaking allegiance to whoever is in charge of them. They will do anything to die for their culture. They have a warrior mentality, and it goes along with kind of what we see in Westworld's actual text, with how it doesn't seem like they can move up or down. It's just they are what they are, which more leads to their host. But that, you know, in a feudalistic society, you are what you are as well. You know, it's not capitalism. It's not a democracy. It's, you know, you are a pleb. You are a serf. You know, you're not going anywhere. So if you want to read into Shogun World, which we're all going to probably see Samurai World a lot, but
I know.
you know, and they're going to look at us over there and be like, why aren't they calling it Cowboy Worlds? Fucking dumbass Americans. But yeah, I mean, like, I can't read too much into Shogun World, people, but if I had to, Tinfoil Justin says it might be wanting to convey that feudalistic honor in kamikaze rage that could be advantageous for them. I don't really think that's what's happening, but that's all I can take right now until we get people talking narrative story. Hax, anything on that?
Yeah, so you know, when we discussed this before, for me, it again came back to the capitalist nature of it. So you start off, you create Westworld, you have a limited scope of bar fights and you know, horseback riding or this and that. One of the things that I didn't understand is why limit yourself? You're going to make this entire show, and you're always going to be set in dust and tumbleweed and horse shit and, pardon my French, you know, not the most ideal timeline or time period or location. So, okay, come out with Shogun World. Okay, so then you go to, you know, this part of the world. You experience samurai. You experience different landscape, different culture. But then, again, you're still stuck in that era. So if I was to create a world, right, it wouldn't be something that we've ever seen. It wouldn't be something that I could go back and relive my cowboy days or fight people with samurai swords. I can do that, right? To an extent. I mean, maybe virtual reality. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess you can do that in this park, right? But it wouldn't be either of those. It would honestly be Game of Thrones world. It would be dragons and crazy witchcraft you've never seen before. It would be the most outlandish thing you could possibly imagine, because that would sell. That would sell, as opposed to cowboys and Indians, or, you know, killing yourself for honor.
Well, don't rule that out because I don't know how serious this meeting was, but it is a fact that George took a meeting with
Yep.
them about a Game of Thrones meeting. I can't imagine that meeting was
It
more
would
than
be
just
the craziest thing ever. But yeah,
mimosas and just saying how, hey, I bet this would be fun. And they're like, when's the next book's coming out, George? He's like, never. He's like, can I have my 8th pudding? Yeah, no, no, I'm
like broke Black Man 94 says, Power Ranger World, right?
terrible idea.
But think about it. Being able to experience the most outlandish thing humanly possible in a world which as the Man in Black says, every need is catered to, everything has been done. Human growth is this, right? We're at it. We're at the pinnacle. Power Ranger World. Okay, you can make a giant robot. You can fight bad guys. Just the craziest thing you could think of is what I would create. And then they went for just Westworld.
Well, but here's where that comes into play. And again, I'm gonna let's for the rest of this stick to you. You be reasonable, and I'll be I'll be tinfoil.
Devil's advocate. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that might tell us something about that because you keep referring to that. Oh, I could do that, but that might show us a little bit about what the outside world is like because maybe that is not possible for some reason. If that's what I'm talking about. If these are the the desires, Shogun World and Westworld, then what does this tell us about the outside world? Because like you said, they could be fighting Shredder or whatever it was in Power Rangers, and all that, Gordon or whatever. But they chose this. Now, I think that the reason they chose Westworld is more clear than Shogun World, just because American. Even though obviously I understand it more, but it gives you a clear-cut chance to pick whether you're a hero or a villain. So there's an appeal to that. You get Elon Musk's ex-wife walking you through and asking you if you want to be a white hat or a black hat. So it's like it's a fairly set up good game. The narrative works well, and and also the westerns, you have your cookie cutter western where and it comes into some issues here with like the old ones are always what they call the white savior complex, where the white guy comes into town and saves everybody from the Indians or the patriot, stuff like that, where he was the only white guy in the revolution.
Truthfully, if I made a world, it would just be the patriot.
Yeah,
it would just be me as Mel Gibson, just wrecking shop. Yeah.
We work for free. They're like, you are the only people in South Carolina. We're not saying it's right in retrospect, but that's not realistic, Mel. And it's like, yeah. And then he's like, gets drunk and just spews his mouth. Anyways, yeah. But yeah. So what does that tell us about that? It's a little imperialistic on both ends, as far as the society goes. So I guess there'll be 3 more worlds. What do we think they could be? I'll just say again, this is tinfoil, Justin. If I had tinfoil, I would put it on. And I'd say I'd like to see a progression because let's look. We have the Japanese feudalistic samurais, and then you have the Western, which would take place in the mid 18th or mid 19th century, and then maybe we could get like awesome. Because I'm a big Peaky Blinders fan and a huge history buff. What about Industrial Revolution to World War One? Early century, 20th century time. What if the other worlds just kept progressing, and then maybe you could get to Power Rangers at some point.
So to answer this question, you just simply have to take every Assassin's Creed and just make it to a world. That's the answer there.
And then they did that, and the movie didn't do good, and they had one of the best actors, so maybe they won't. But yeah, that would be. Yeah, it's like, what are the other worlds going to be? You can go away.
Mongolian, Chinese Mongolian war, or Roman world, or I don't know. Even if you brought it back to Africa, different tribal warfare, but even that sounds.
Kunta Kinte world. Yeah, it's not gonna. That's not a pleasant place. You're just really. It's hard. You should watch Roots, but it's not like a joyful watch. It's very sad. So I can't imagine people want to go there just to relive the horrors of the Atlantic slave trade. Maybe there's some people that would, and then they should put them on a list, and then they should put that list to a firing squad.
Check it out. You do that, and then you're the guy who stops slavery, and you get to experience being that guy, something that I could imagine would be euphoric. And I mean, I see the appeal. I also see the appeal of maybe just Amazon World or
I don't like malaria.
yeah,
But I mean, aren't they technically like? I mean, this is a form of slavery already, to be honest.
yeah, without a doubt.
What if I told you I'm here to set you free? But anyways, what if? And again, I hope somebody just watches this 1 minute and they're like, this guy's an idiot. What if one of the other worlds is the world in which William and Delos exists in? And it's whatever that. So the world that they're traveling to, what they think is a theme park, but they're traveling from a different theme park. And every once in a while, Dolores and Maeve and all that go to Delos World, and it just keeps going. And that goes into the simulation within a simulation. I think that would be too much of a too much of a fucking fuck you to the fans. But we do need to look at the Nolans. And one last thing on this, I don't want to go too long, but let's look at the Inception factor, even though that was not the, I won't say better brother, I'll say just more talented brother.
More experience, maybe.
Yeah, it's just done a lot more better stuff, but they all helped each other. Yeah. So, but Inception is all about like being stuck, and it brings up the same question too, because another question is, like the Man in Black has kind of made this decision to want to make it as real as possible, but he just wants to stay there. He says, this time I'm not leaving. And in the terms and conditions, you can only stay for 28 days and you will be escorted off presidents or off the whatever.
The reserve.
Yeah. So, it's like the Inception is the idea of being stuck in limbo, and that's kind of the ambiguous ending is he out or is he not? And the true question it's asking, again, what makes stuff like this rewatchable and stuff that will spawn intelligent conversation and sometimes heated conversation is, like, does it matter if it was or not? His kids were there.
She was there.
Yeah. Maeve has made that decision as of this point. It didn't matter if it was a narrative. That's how she felt. So I mean, it just brings up these types of questions, and there's never going to be a right or wrong. There'll be right or wrongs for other stuff, but like for those, theological, philosophical questions, deeper things, those just are for conversation. And it is very likely that these situations could be coming up maybe in our grandkids, not mine, I'm not having kids, lives, they could be facing things like this, but there's already things in Parliament over in the UK that they passed laws about personhood, to protect potential AI.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, there's already shit going down to foresee this, which is nice. I think it's the people that are truly believe in that, if they'll know if who supported them and who didn't, and they'll punish them if there's a. So I think it's like they're like real big into that, so they just did it.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, I can't lose. I'm gonna say to all the future robots that I'm for you guys, and just treat me well. But
put my brain in a jar and hook it up.
Yeah, and that's another. I mean, the biggest thing too is just the whole the ascension, putting the consciousness into somebody else idea, and making the rich immortal, because they can cure any disease, but a body still fails. So I don't know if you have anything on that, but I mean, it was really just like, there's not any more theories you could really have except for who's a host and who's not. If you want me to bet money on it, I'll bet that Felix is a host, because I don't think Ford, if he's all knowing, is going to risk that situation with Maeve. And it seems like it would just be more cost efficient, right?
Yep, to have all the people working the worst jobs in the park to just be that. But I mean, there is that scapegoat, because I'm sorry, what's her name?
Elsie,
thank you. Has the line about down there they're so clumsy or something like that, referring to the people that prep the hosts for.
like that. I think they're like called just butchers or something.
Butchers. Yeah, so maybe they're not, but maybe. I mean, I agree. There's no way that Ford and being the master chess player, as we previously discussed, would ever let such a new character to the Westworld, because he's a newer employee, right? He doesn't have tenure. He hasn't been there forever, so he's risking everything on a random person showing up to work that day. Not the entire thing going downhill, and
Yeah, he has to pick like the sympathetic, too, like, and it's just again, I brought this up before. A statistician, would not call the chess master game of Ford a even the odds of blackjack. It would be like roulette from somebody that's on meth and is drunk as hell. No skill, nothing, just already. I mean, with everything that had to fall into place. So you have to think that if this was his plan, which gives more credence to it if it's him, he has also always been a host, because the real master plan was Arnold letting them figure it out for themselves. So even if Robert is so hands on in this, it's still them as a species making these decisions. It takes away from that in our very, like I said, biased way of thinking. It takes away from the legitimacy of their sentience if there's so much control by Ford. So, but if Ford was a host the whole time, it adds a lot to it, because they came to it on their own. There's very little stepping in on our part. So the less we have to do with this, the more case they have. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that's interesting. I can't really guess the other worlds or how much they'll mean or how much they'll show. I think the big reveal of it will definitely be what the outside world is. Every reference is all about our culture. I mean, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it seems to me very likely that it's on. And I found on a map, the topological, I can never say this, report, that they changed it, but it was saying that it was commissioned. The actual maps, it was commissioned by the United States government. And then when they rebooted their website last season, it changed just the zoning. So that doesn't mean, and I talked that that's where our geophysicist Milk comes into play. It's amazing how many times you need a geophysicist for a YouTube channel about TV shows. But yeah, I asked him about that. I'm like, can the United States like issue that, zoning report on like Asia? And no, like that's not something they do, like that's almost always like a province or territory, owned by those people. And at the very least, it shows that the United States government still exists. And I understand that we could colonize Mars and that could still exist, but it just heavily implies that we're still on Earth. And the Delos commercial itself, that looks like a freaking Nokia commercial, right? Or like a T-Mobile commercial.
As for the location of the park, I do think they're islands. There's like still something in the back of my mind that makes me think that they're not. And it was like when they were looking at the moon or the sun in the distance on the horizon, just something threw me off about the scene. The way that they held on that position for too long, it just felt like they were hinting at something, as if the sky or the environment around them was controlled. And it would make sense to control that environment. You spend $40,000, you and your entire family, and then it rains the entire time. I would want my $40,000 back, So, but overall, I do think it's on an island, and I do think the location of the island is probably off the coast of China. In the real world, they're developing man-made islands.
Yes, thank you. I've been saying this forever. Yes,
dude, I 100% agree with this.
Yes. It's the only thing that makes sense. It's like, well, people like, it's Australia. I'm like, first off, been to Australia. I know Andrew lives there, and a few of my Patreons even live there. Like, only like 10% of that country you can live in. The rest is ran by like vicious predators. And it's not. If you want total seclusion, you build your own damn island, and they do refer to the mainland authorities.
Yep.
In port control. All things that imply, it would be very easy, not very easy, but a lot easier than it would be in other places if you built your own island to get control over the airspace than it would be if you took over an existing continent, island, whatever. So it's definitely got to be an island. And again, who knows? Maybe there's some like type of like Star Wars-esque, dome that they have on there. It's a very odd structure to begin with. Maybe we'll have Milt on for that, but yeah, I totally agree. I've been saying that. I'm like, that's what I would do.
Yeah,
because you can't risk it, especially since nobody evidently can do what they do. You can't be put in that shit, even if it is Australia. Fucking kangaroos are gonna kick your head in and take it.
I will still say that I'm not like I really do believe that, but there's just one scene in season one in which they like reference the sky, or the camera just pans to the moon or the sun for too long, and it just makes me uncomfortable. My theory crafting, I'm like, oh, dude, it's all virtual simulation, the whole thing. I expect like the Truman Show. There's going to be a light that falls from the sky, something like that. But I just don't know. Something throws me off, and I can't place it.
Well, yeah, well, but I mean, like is the tunnel underwater then, Justin? I don't. If you're talking about the tunnel that has a train, I believe if you look at the structure, it's like embedded into that cliff or whatever you want to call it, that mountainous terrain, which is also like another metaphor for creation, Dante's Inferno and stuff. That literally, if you want to get to the bottom of things within Delos, you have to go to like the bottom of things, physically as well as literally. As far as like, yeah. Like with the travel, like William falls asleep on that train ride. So, I mean, it's not out of the question that like what they're doing here, even if it's a physical island, isn't still having some type of technology. Because look, too, we never see like it's almost like in an instant they show up. It's very they do it for cinematic value as well. But you notice like in the first season when they do enter the park, like they turn on those spotlights out of nowhere. It's like
just boom.
Yeah, they're looking at that 3D digitalized map, and then they're there.
It's like it's a simulation, and they're just going into the simulation. Cough, cough.
Exactly, though. But you know what I mean? But just because it's a physical island doesn't mean they can't create a simulation on that physical island.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So that one doesn't rule out the other, So yeah, I think, I don't know. Does anybody have any more questions before we wrap it up here? I think we had a good conversation. We'll do this again, and especially after the first episode, then we can start getting theories again. You know what I mean? Like it's so hard to, obviously you've seen these mainstream media outlets with their theories. Is it possible the host could become sentient? I'm like, that's what's happening.
That's the story, dude.
That is what's happening.
That's why we keep watching it.
Could Tony Soprano be involved in organized crime? It's like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, they're stretching. Providence, not Providence. Yes, thank you.
Man. I would love to be on. I'd also like if you do a weekly recap with anyone else, like a panel setup. I would love to be on that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm trying to do is get a show. I might do some pre-recorded stuff because I love OBS, but I'm not able to run it because of the 1.23 upload speed here outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. So with OBS, though, I would, if we pre-recorded these, I would be able to have more of like the graphics up on screen and have more of the platform would suit it better. But yes, no, you're great. I almost forgot about because you took a break, but we met last year before I even had my channel, and I run the Amino, and I always loved your videos, and then I thought you were Buzz Talks for some odd reason. I forgot because you took a hiatus, and then I couldn't, and then you got back in contact with me, and I was like, who is this? And then I looked at I'm like, oh yeah, that's the guy I love. You know what I mean? Because I got so much stuff. So I highly recommend you. I mean, he killed it last season. Number one, you jumped in and just start making great Westworld videos. Because I think the first time you messaged me, you're like, hey, I'm gonna be making some videos, and a lot of people had messaged me that, and I was like in the midst of getting the preparation for my channel started. I'm like, oh, okay, sure you are, because I didn't know you. And then you made your video. I'm like, holy shit! Not only is it good, it's got 140,000 K. So congratulations, man. No, you're intelligent. You're well. You do what you do very well, and again, I'm jealous even of your voice acting.
Oh no, man! Yeah. It's all fun, and I do hope that the YouTube, what I'm trying to create is a YouTube channel, and this entire community really shapes itself, and I just love it, man. I truthfully love this show so much, and I tried to keep on with Game of Thrones, because I really do love Game of Thrones. I think that the season that I started making videos for was a terrible season, but overall, man, I love theory crafting. I love talking to people and experiencing these shows, and can't wait to do it in the future.
Well, yeah, no, and we're just trying to get a group of people together that are committed to Westworld and know Westworld like you do, like Robert does. We've been embedded in this community. Nothing against just Game of Thrones content creators or anything like that, but a lot of them you'll always see they'll make a few Westworld videos at the beginning. That's what they did last year, and then they stopped because they're just trying to cash in on something. They're not invested like we are in the show. They're not talking about it offline. They're not researching. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, you don't just get dibs on it because people like your Game of Thrones stuff. So the community that I run and the community of the collaboration that, you know, we're working on, I'm definitely happy to have you a part of it, and I'm happy you were able to come on. And yeah, you're gonna be coming on a lot. So don't worry about that.
Well, thanks so much, man.
And I hope to be on your channel soon as well.
Definitely.
And just a quick announcement. I know I got to do a call with Costume Co. after this. I will be coming on. We haven't said it. It's going to be very soon. And we're going to be talking about a variety of different shows. If you guys have not, Milt, who's got a wrench in there? Who's got a BBM? Again, I'm sorry. Milt or BBM. If you could link Costume Co. And if somebody could, let me see if I can link you really quick, Hax. It is in the info, and even some of your videos are, but for some reason it's still sometimes a push to get people to click a link. So let me just do this. And if you got any the last video that Hax did, if you want to explain that really quick, it's beautifully done for your first take on one of those videos. If you just want to explain what you did really quick, and then I'll link it.
Yeah, so essentially, you know, when I first started, I didn't know what I was trying to develop, but what I wanted was, like, you know, at the end of last season, there was a video called Jaime Lannister, the Oathbreaker. It was a very, very well done video, but it was a cinematic about, you know, Jaime Lannister's progression into, you know, the Kingslayer and what he is now and his legacy. So when I started doing this for, you know, Dolores, you know, the opening scene being Dolores coming and waking up, you know, Ford talking and narrating, you know, dreams and consciousness and humanity as opposed to hosts, and then ending it with Dolores also waking up again. I wanted to really structure it as maybe all of season 1 was just Dolores's dream. You know, it was like, because Dolores dreams in such a, I'm sorry, all hosts dream in such a way that you can't tell which is current and past. Maybe everything we witnessed was, you know, just Dolores waking up from a dream.
Well, it's really beautifully done. I hope not, because that's the Delos approach, but your video is really beautifully done. I just linked it, and his channel is in there, but I linked the specific video. What I would compare it to, if you guys are a fan of, and I'm probably not going to say his name, Zurich, 55 millimeter. He makes a lot of videos that are, you know, based to really, he hits the beats of a series really well, and incorporates great music with it, and great, you know, lines of dialogue. I think he's the one behind whatever. I think it might be like The Wolf and the Dragon or whatever. A lot of the Jon Snow stuff, but Black Sails he does great stuff with, even a lot of different series. So Zurich 55, I don't know. It's a Russian creator, and that's what it reminded me of. And I've done a few of these too. I've done, you know, it's just you put music with certain lines of dialogue. Like I put a remix to It's Been a Long Time Since I've Seen You, My Friend. You know, and I put parts of Jaime and Tyrion's relationship with it. So I think, you know, I don't really know what they call these videos, but I
don't either. Yeah.
I love them though. And when I saw you made that, I was like, love it. You know what I mean? And that's another thing. Like you know, it's just a way to interpret it, but it's definitely beautiful. I mean, for your first take on that, damn, good job. You cut those scenes.
Man.
You cut them nice.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, I was definitely stressing. I was up till 5 a.m. that night, that morning, just like, is it gonna flop? Is it gonna flop? Is it gonna flop?
Yeah, you're so, it's like you're pot committed at some point. Trust me. These last few days have been about 5 hours of sleep for me, but I couldn't be happier to have you on. And we'll have you on again soon. And hey, 6 days. What is today? Is today like Monday? It's Monday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 6 days.
This week, man. This Sunday. This is it.
Yeah, and no more Walking Dead. So that's just fantastic. So thank you guys so much. If you have not subscribed, make sure to do so. Appreciate all my Patreons. I appreciate all the people that have been there since day one. If you're not familiar with Hax Dogma, get familiar with him real quick. I guarantee you're going to love it. And we will see you guys soon.
Thank you, everyone.
I didn't have the stop broadcast up, so we're still live, people. And we'll see you guys soon. Nailed it.